Set on your end?
Yeah,
No, no.
I think we are
Unmute,
just
unmute.
yeah, we are. I've
Oh,
just
great. Can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Great.
Okay. Um, Divyashri, I think we can start. Kshitij?
Okay, ma'am.
Can you mute us?
Kshitij, audio. Audio.
The first impression that comes to our mind about any college: tall buildings, big classrooms, large lobby areas, thick books, IT labs, assignments, class tests, and projects. Nothing besides that. Every hour, minute, second spent here help us carving and shaping our persona, cultivating innovative mindsets for the challenging world. Learning is a lifelong process. Sharing knowledge, inculcating values of life, spark the innovative horizons of mind. Fun and frolic is the nature of every nook and corner here. A daily dose of thrill we are sure to get here.
Hello, everyone. I am S. Divyashri, student of BA JMC first year. Welcome you to the special session of Psychological Impacts of Bullying, organized by Committee of Anti-Ragging and Anti-Bullying of Delhi Metropolitan Education, Noida, a premier college affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University and approved by Bar Council of India. According to UGC, ragging is any act of physical or mental abuse, including bullying and exclusion, targeted at another student on the ground of color, race, religion, caste, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, appearance, nationality, regional origins, linguistic identity, place of birth, place of residence, or economic background. Bullying causes psychological, emotional, and physical stress. Each person's response to being bullied is unique, but research has shown some general tendencies. Reports say that youth who are bullied have a higher risk of depression and anxiety. Our institute has taken efforts to be free from this menace because of the active cooperation of the faculty, students, parents, and staff. We also continually make an effort to free our campus from all kinds of toxic substances. This workshop is organized to educate students on the negativity of ragging, psychological impacts of bullying, and inculcate good values which helps them refrain from such act, and also in helping to maintain the ethos of the institution, eliminating the menace of ragging within the institution or outside. Now, I invite Dr. Amrish Saxena, Professor and Dean DME Media School, to brief us on the subject.
Divyashri, sir is joining. I think you can call director sir till then.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Uh, So I request Dr. Ravikant Swami, Director, Delhi Metropolitan Education, to say a few words.
Okay, so I welcome the guest speakers on this program, and I welcome our Director General, Sir, Justice Bawar Singh, Sir, on this program. Ragging is a menace in our society, and that is why we have formed this special committee. Earlier, it was part of the discipline committee, but it was decided that anti-ragging should be a separate committee. Obviously, the people who are engaged in ragging are very smart people, and they make a different shape that ragging is part of training. But then, after the Aman Khachru case, I think the ragging guidelines in India were streamlined, and after that, things are in the proper shape. I welcome the speakers, and thank you so much for coming to the program. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Dr. Amrish Saxena, Professor and Dean DME Media School, to brief us on the subject. Sir, are you here?
Sir is trying to join. There's some issue on his end. Divyashi, please continue.
Okay, ma'am, then. Okay. Today, here we have two resource persons with us who are clinical psychologists and assistant professors in the Department of Clinical Psychology in LGB Regional Institute of Mental Health, Tejpur, Assam. Firstly, we have Dr. P. Abhishek. He completed his MA in psychology from the PG Department of Psychology, Ranchi University, and pursued both MPhil and PhD in medical and social psychology from the Central Institute of Psychiatry, Ranchi. Prior to joining LGB Regional Institute of Mental Health, Tejpur, he also served as a clinical psychologist at the Tata Main Hospital, Jamshedpur, Jharkhand. In the field of psychology, his areas of interest and specialization are episodic memory and cognitive remediation in schizophrenia, cognition in obsessive compulsive disorder, early behavioral intervention in autism spectrum disorder. His research and work have been extensively published in several academic journals and books, and he also holds ample experience of working with the young adolescents and children and their mental health issues. And also, we have here Dr. Diptarup Chaudhary, who has been working for 1.5 decades as a lecturer, mental health researcher, and lately faculty consultant in one of the oldest mental health care institute in a small town of Tejpur, Assam. He completed his master's from the Delhi University and later his MPhil and PhD from National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, Bengaluru. Dr. Diptarup's current work engagements are all influenced by a particular approach of mental health called narrative practices, which is a respectful, non-judgmental, culturally relevant approach to counseling, which centers people as experts of their own lives. He currently coordinates multiple initiatives at his institute or department, which include the psychotherapy and counseling training program, a new center of psychological care and mental health promotion for youth called Youth Wellness Hub, and very recent telepsychotherapy services in his institute. Our guests are going to speak on psychological impacts of bullying. The session will be followed by question and answers, and I also request the audience to post their question in the chat box. Now over to you, Dr. Abhishek and Dr. Diptarup. You may take the session forward.
Good morning and greetings from a small town in Assam, Tejpur. And can we share screen?
Yes, I have enabled.
Okay. Okay, so just a minute. Is it in the slide?
You can see it, am I right?
But
Yes,
it's
sir.
not.
It's visible.
No, yeah.
Okay, great. So my name is Diptaru and my colleague Abhishek, and I really express our gratitude to DME for giving us an opportunity. And I understand that it would be around 2,000 kilometers if we look at the physical distance between Delhi and Tejpur. It also immediately takes back to my memory lane, 2002, when I spent my Delhi University days. It was a very different Delhi, I guess. And when Teenam, who we know for some time, came with this idea of this topic and a discussion and a representation from our side, we felt really honored because we have been feeling for quite some time that as mental health professionals, we have a huge stake on issues of bullying and ragging. The only thing is that it is a little late for many of the young people whom we see coming down to our clinics, to our hospital, to our centers with the consequences and impact of bullying. And we wish that we could reverse it, we could go back to the timeline if we had a time machine. So thank you so much for giving us an opportunity. And in a way, we would be sharing this presentation. I'll be joining towards the later part of the presentation. And we bring two different kind of experiences to complement each other. Abhishek has been working with children for a long time, and he's a consultant in the child and adolescent mental health services that our institute provides, and sees a lot of adolescents, young people till the age of 18. And I am also working as a coordinator of a center, which was said during the introduction, called Youth Wellness Hub, where we see a lot of young people not necessarily unwell or having psychiatric or psychological problem, but come for the context of awareness as well as wellness of mental health. So there also we see bullying and ragging in a different way and different shape. And both of us always felt that it's important for us to discuss and talk with young people and teachers and share our ideas and our insights. So Abhishek, over to you to take us through the presentation.
So good morning, everyone. Just before this session, I was talking to my colleague, Dr. Diptut, that one thing good which has happened with this because of this pandemic is that we have started using technology more effectively. Right now, getting connected with you all, say, with this distance of 2,000 kilometers, I mean, we would not have thought about it some time back, but again, this is happening now. Coming to the topic, so as my colleague was saying, and in the beginning also shared by some other speakers, that it's a very important, an issue for us to talk about. Since the time UGC has implemented some stringent rules and regulation, it seems that it has been quite effective, and it seems that a lot of things have decreased, but on and off we do come to hear about some of the cases. When it comes to us as mental health professionals, by the time say an individual, an adolescent or an adult, a young adult studying in college comes to us, very often we see that a significant amount of damage in terms of mental health has already been done because of the experience of bullying or ragging experienced by this particular individual. So that is why it's very important for us to talk about bullying. We cannot deny it. maybe things have decreased substantially, but then like what our experience says, and I think you all can share later on your experience. But then it feels like it still exists, and that is why it's important for us to talk about it. Uh, we can't deny it. It possibly still exists in campus, and not only in campus, even outside the campus. So say many would not be affected, but some of the students or the young people who are a bit vulnerable, in some cases it can have a very long term consequences in terms of mental health. So that is why it's important to talk about bullying. So what I'm going to do now is that it's a very brief presentation just to understand the psychology behind bullying, the psychology of the victim, and also about those who perpetrate. So also about the perpetrators and some other significant parties to it. So it usually it's not between just the perpetrator and the victim. There are other significant people who are not actively involved, but then become a part and parcel of it. So that is why it's important to talk about all those things. So since it's a small session, we'll be discussing about these things briefly, and later on, maybe in the question answer session, we'll see how do we, handle your questions. So, this kind of myths which exist around bullying, that about ragging, if I say that, and this is, based on the experiences shared by students, that, and like all of us have gone through that phase of, that life of a student. So many of us have experienced it, and it becomes a regular phenomena that a new batch enters, the seniors. So people believe that it like the myths which I have mentioned, that it promotes bonding and friendship. Some believe that it some believe that it develops your personality, and then again there would be some people, some students saying that there is a healthy kind of a bullying and there is an unhealthy kind of a bullying. But uh, as a psychologist, I can tell you that humiliating anyone or embarrassing anyone will only inculcate a sense of powerlessness, a sense of lack of control that may be temporary, but still, by any means, we don't see that it does any good. So anything, any sort of notion that it does any good is, it's nothing but a myth.
And I'm reminded of the adverse childhood experiences,
Yes.
and we call it ACEs in the field of psychology, clinical psychology, and how a lot of research has very clearly proves that humiliation, bullying, ragging, anything that puts you down, that affects you, the growing psyche, has a long-term impact, which may not be immediately visible, but has its impact and gets reflected.
Very long.
And there is no doubt now.
For some people, some vulnerable people, as I said, and as Dr. Dipto said, it can have a very long-term consequences. The consequences can, impact the growth of that very individual. So that is why it's important to talk about it, to discuss it, so that it shouldn't be an elephant in the room. So talking about the types of bullying, say, if you can see on the slide, I've mentioned different types of bullying. Some may be direct, such as physical or verbal bullying. Some may be indirect, say the prejudicial bullying, not talking to someone, ignoring someone. Also, some people call it as relational bullying. So then you have sexual bullying. Right now, these days, this not so new, but then people are also talking about cyberbullying. Something, in this age of social media, we are all familiar with this word called trolling. to my mind, it is nothing but a form of bullying. You people, and the interesting thing is that it is not restricted to young people. So, like what you see very often, we see people. I mean, in news and all, the way people respond, the kind of language they use, it's very offending, and it's nothing but cyberbullying. So that is why it's important that to know that this is nothing but a form of bullying, and again, for some it can have very grave consequences. So
And then in this context, I think what Abhishek is trying to say is that bullying is not a new thing.
Yeah.
It has been there. There is a long history of bullying, and it has its various expressions and various, and it's also not okay for us to just restrict it to the educational spaces. How its tentacles and roots are so deep into the process of relating to each other and to others also, whether it's with the nature, with other animals, the kind of relational nature, which makes it also very important and possibly important for us to discuss and see what happens.
Exactly. So we'll talk about the implications for psychologically vulnerable students. So I've specifically mentioned vulnerable students because there are some who will be very deeply affected. But that does not mean that those who are not vulnerable, they are not affected. They are also affected, but then possibly the effect remains have the effect is kind of a temporary one. But then still, even then, why should someone undergo that, some kind of negative experience? Why should someone undergo that? And the other thing which is also important to discuss is the psychology of those who are involved in active bullying. So again, a very important thing for us to talk about.
Because it is easy for us to forget about the bullies and think that they are anyway the on the wrong side of it.
Exactly.
But they are at the end of the day our children, our students, our colleagues sometimes. So what about that? So if we don't talk about them and
Exactly.
what we can do to bring them in the discussion, otherwise it will be an incomplete one.
Exactly. So, talking about the kind of experiences which it leads to bullying in terms of the negative emotions which they experience, the kind of phenomena they go through. So, these are some of the common emotions very frequently mentioned by those who undergo bullying. Say, there is a lot of anger uh, out of the humiliation which they experience. There is a sense of defenselessness, sense of powerlessness, that for now they cannot do anything. It's a system, it's a norm, and that they have to they have to, even if they don't like it, no one would like it, but then still they have to go through it. So feeling of embarrassment, feeling worried, because it sometimes it becomes a perpetual phenomena. People see what is the way out. People look for what is the way out, but they don't see anything. So they start remaining worried, remaining afraid, remaining alone, and gradually it starts taking a toll on the mental health of the victims. So very frequently there is a very strong sense of helplessness, a sense of insecurity. uh, there would be a lack of interest, lack of control over things. Um some may even have fleeting only, but then these ideas of harming oneself, suicidal ideations, feeling low, not interested in day-to-day activities, not willing to go back to college, not willing to talk to friends. And then some may experience difficulties with sleep, with appetite also, unable to concentrate. Some may have kind of what we see in traumatic people who undergo traumatic experiences. So similar kind of phenomena, memories, uh, sudden activation of those memories of humiliation. People do report to us about the nightmares the similar things which they undergo, they have very frequently. And I can tell you that with some people, it takes a toll on their personality, on their sense of self-esteem. That how as an individual, how capable they are, their own self-image. So we see in say some of the students, actually those who come to us, the cases with which we deal with, and everything, when we go deeper, what we find that one of the critical factors which has led this child or this young adult to experience these kind of mental health issues is all a very substantial part of it is because of bullying. So very often we see very severe anxiety among these people. Um, Again, as I mentioned, self-esteem issues. There are some. Yeah, please.
No, no.
Shall I continue?
Yes, yes, please.
So, see, I can tell you about cases when uh, very young people frequently being commented upon their appearance, the way they look, their so uh, gradually they develop this body image issue, and actually body image issue to the extent that we have a kind of a psychiatric issue. I'm not going into that, but I can just tell you that about their own appearance, some get so much preoccupied that it starts affecting their day-to-day life. Some would even avoid going to social occasions just because right now they have developed this faulty notion, a negative notion about their appearance, and it all happens because the way people around, the peer around, or at least some people around that very student behave. They keep on commenting upon the physical appearance. In some cases, like I previously mentioned about suicidal ideation, so it actually takes the shape of clinical depression when I think it's we know that in past there were some cases when some student actually did something which was like cases of suicide and all. So why does it happen? It actually, I mean, this sense of powerlessness becomes so overwhelming that they don't see any way, out, and ultimately it takes the shape of nothing but clinical depression. Suicidal ideation becomes so prominent that the only way out is to many, at least to the vulnerable group, is ending life. So there have been instances like that in the past, and I can tell you again with my clinical experience that when we talk of mental health issues, so uh, there are some who have, for some or other region, some vulnerabilities in the sense of, some say, genetic predisposition. So I have seen cases when say the student had some genetic predisposition in terms of having a family member with a psychiatric illness, but then this child was maintaining absolutely fine, absolutely no issue. Then entering into a new school, and I'm talking about adolescents. So entering into new school, unfortunately experiencing consistent, very hostile kind of bullying, and then they have this psychotic breakdown. So it also tells us that if for those vulnerable who have some kind of say vulnerabilities in terms of genetic predisposition, if a safe environment, if a conducive environment is provided, uh, possibly they will never develop this extreme issue of mental illness, which is psychosis. So that is why it's important that we never know. Bullying can trigger a lot of other mental health issues. So, and it can actually be prevented. So, and we can only prevent it when we talk about it, when we acknowledge that it exists.
And just to add here, if you look at the kind of experiences that we are talking about, Abhishek started talking about the feelings, the emotions that are available, that somebody is going through bullying or ragging, anger, embarrassment, worry, and all those things. These are, in a way, our experiences which are familiar to us. So, in a way, it should be red flags to us and people around to see whether is is the underlying issue something to do with bullying, something to do with ragging, because often it might get unnoticed. It could be our common worry, common anger because of something else. It might sound like that, or it might look like that. But how hidden in it, hidden under this so-called common emotions, we see the experience of bullying and ragging hidden in it, or lying just below that. And once we start unearthing it, exposing it, opening it, we realize that the negative mental health effects that we are talking about in terms of adverse mental health effects, adverse childhood experiences, that starts having its impact. And please note that we human beings we also have resources and resilience. It's like we do not just give up on fights, give up on things. We also try to do it, resist it in our own ways. So it takes time for all these small traumas to have a larger impact. But this is the time where we also start noticing differences and changes, maybe subtly, maybe it is the closest friend who can look into it. And that's where the importance of peers comes in, teachers and people around them. And as Abhishek said, that if it goes on for long, the deeper psychological impact of it is something that are really worrisome. And we talk about it, or we hear stories about it even in films. And then that day I was watching a film, a Hindi film called Chichore, and it's actually about ragging and the process of ragging. And it's very interesting that there are also how human gentle experiences of connection is shown along with it, which makes us think, can we not think about respect and tenderness without the context of ragging or bullying? But that's a different story for us to talk about it later on. But how it's important that it gradually evolves over a period of time and not just a sudden thing on ourselves.
Exactly. So, talking about the perpetrators, so we need to understand the motivation behind it. We all know that between seniors and juniors, there is already a hidden sense of an imbalance of power. So, and it actually happens between those who bully and those who are bullied. So there is always an imbalance of power for some or other region. But then they okay, all right. So those who engage in bullying, it's a very well understood thing right now, is that they indulge into it because that again becomes a way of expressing the power which they have, the authority which lies with them. So and very often that is also a source of attention, gaining attention of others in the class. So this balance, this imbalance of power, this authority of power, it also feeds the it also serves attention to them, and that ways they sometimes or should I say, very often, they also have a kind of acceptance that this is someone in the class with, this kind of an authority, this kind of a figure, something like that. So very often, instead of, uh, you know, uh, kind of challenging it, people or students very often start, at least some of them start identifying with them, and and as I said, it becomes a normative behavior. So ragging in general, it's a kind of a norm that every year this happens, and as I said in the beginning, that it would inculcate a sense of bonding. So it becomes a kind of a norm. Now, it is also important to understand the role of the bystanders. So the bystanders who watch someone being bullied, that is a very important factor which reinforces someone who indulges in bullying, because no one challenges, everyone watches. So that very implicitly reinforces uh, the power dynamics between someone who is being bullied and someone who is bullying. And at least the bully believes that his or her acceptance is growing. So that is why the role of the bystander is very important, uh, because not saying anything, and by challenging, I am not saying that indulging into any sort of aggressive behavior, but then sometimes people can ignore also, because all one critical reason for which uh, a student or anyone for that matter is indulging is in bullying is just to seek attention. So even ignoring can do the job, but that does not happen. People stand and people watch someone being humiliated. So that further strengthens the mindset of that very. And I can tell you one thing, that with my experience, and I think Dr. Dipru would agree to that, that most of those who indulge into bullying, they do not have any mental health issue. It's just because somehow they picked it up. Sometimes it also happens that those who are indulging in bullying, they have been bullied. They were also bullied sometime previously in their life. So they are both victims and bullied. So that is why uh, these people who indulge in bullying, I mean, talking to them, listening to them, and helping them to develop the perspective of others, which we'll talk about, can actually help them to reduce indulging into these kind of behaviors.
So I think it's very important to not demonize the bullies.
Yeah.
It's very easy, and also we see it so often in media talking about how different and extreme is the example of somebody who's a bully. And the moment we do that, we as if solve the problem by getting rid of that particular person from the system, and as if we get rid of it and make them an outsider, the problem solves. But that's not the case. And as you rightly pointed out, no, in almost all the ways, in most of the cases, we see them as like anybody. We don't see them as psychopaths and like that we see.
And a very important point, which I think I have not included that anywhere, but then the involvement of media. I think right now, when we were talking about cyberbullying also, the role of media is very important, in the sense that if you watch news channels right now, sometimes I feel that that is nothing but a sort of bullying which is happening. So again, the role of
We should remember that the School of Media Studies, which is also organizing it. So we'll get a chance to talk about it more. Let's stay with our field first.
Of course. So what buffers, those who are, because bullying, it's a very common phenomena many undergo bullying, but then not necessarily everyone, and most will not manifest any severe consequence of bullying. So what are the factors which buffers, which provide a kind of buffer against bullying? So, one important thing is self-esteem. Not to disregard oneself, not to see oneself in lower light. Uh, 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 Believing in oneself is something which helps. So having, and that is what by self-esteem I mean. So experiences should not, lead to kind of a feeling that I am worthless and I will not be able to do anything. I will not be able to overcome this situation. So having a good sense of self-esteem, sense of self-efficacy, and what I have mentioned, the things which I've mentioned here, it's all based on our clinical experience, and these things are very well empirically proven that it provides a lot of buffer, not only for bullying but for different adverse circumstances which anyone goes through. So better ability to cope. Again, the way you perceive a situation, the way you take a situation. So two people thinking about the same thing in two very different manners. Some exaggerating it to the to the extent that now you know I can't help it. It will continue like that, and someone just taking it. I'm not saying to take it in stride, but then again, if you seek help, if you talk to others, uh, that is also a kind of coping. Maybe it will provide a lot of a kind of buffering effect. Again, when someone goes through adverse situations like these, it's important to seek family support as well. So family, um, listening to that child, very often coming out with solutions, or at least helping that child, because listening to someone helps. So good family support, good peer support, uh, talking to your batchmates, talking to some people, some students, can help, actually can help. And of course a very supportive college environment, and the community where the child or the student lives, these things can buffer. So possibly even a vulnerable student will not manifest any severe uh, mental health consequences, shall I say. uh, so would you like to say something else? Yeah. So finally we'll be talking about what steps can be taken. So first of all, it's important to talk. If someone is being bullied, I think there is no point keeping it to oneself. You need to talk. You need to talk to your batchmates. You need to talk to your friends. You need to talk to your teachers that you are undergoing an experience like this. It's important to talk about it. Uh, it's important that those who are around that very person, that very student, to listen to him. The usually, I think even your college has it, to have special cells when students can go and talk and reveal what they are going through. uh, uh, it's important to be, as I was talking about, self-compassion. So respecting oneself also is important, and that see, nothing is perpetual, and everyone has abilities to overcome things. So of course you can seek support, and you should seek support. You should talk to people, but then believe in yourself that you can actually overcome it. So for the perpetrators, if in general, if you have in the beginning of the session only a small group discussions uh, about ragging, about the consequences, I think these things help. providing an atmosphere when any student can come and talk to teachers or talk to, say, because there are peer counselors as well. So some students who can take this initiative to become peer counselors, and students can go and talk to them. So those who are perpetrators, even with them, talking to them, helping them to, generate a sense of empathy, ability to take the perspective of others, ability to understand what someone goes through, or the kind of emotion someone goes through, can actually help. As I said, and I think Dr. Diprup also said that most of those who indulge in bullying, they don't have any uh, psychological issue. A very small fraction of young people have a psychiatric condition, but that is, and you would not find uh, such kind of students very frequently. So most of them don't have any psychiatric issue. So it's not that if you talk to them, things are not going to work out. It will definitely work out. So taking understanding what someone goes through, and giving anyone any sort of pain, it can never be something which can be enjoyed. So it's not that difficult to help them as well. Very often these students or young people, adolescents who indulge in bullying, they do have very low self-esteem. So indulging into those activities, becomes a sense of that uh, implicitly gives them kind of meaning or purpose, helps them to gain acceptance. But if pointed out to them, talking to them, maybe talking to them individually, can again help them. And I think most of the cases, uh, things will be under control, in the sense that they will develop the perspective of others. So always acknowledge, don't be in denial, seek the support of others, uh, treat the problems that come along with bullying, such as feeling low. So anything, which happens as a consequence of bullying, say feeling low, not interested in talking to others, it's also important to talk about that, to do something about it, and not to ignore it, because otherwise that takes a toll on your mental health. Build your self-confidence, be positive about yourself, and very important that don't be a bystander. I'm not asking you to indulge in any sort of aggressive activity, but then it's important to when you see uh, something wrong happening to someone. So that will actually help the victim and also the perpetrator that this is something which is not going to work out. So it's important to talk about that. I think my colleague would, yeah. So how institutes can facilitate it? My colleague would throw a light on this.
So I think it's very important to look at the ecosystem which we're talking about. We are seeing bullying and ragging taking place in the context of of our immediate significance, that is the educational space, your college, university. But we also saw that the history of bullying is deep-rooted. It has its part in our way we grow up in homes. It is there in the public transport. It's there in the roads, in a crowded place, even in a deserted place, and in places like that. Which brings us to this point. This is the last slide. That what could the institute do to that? Now there has been significant steps that have been taken. UGC has recognized this as a problem for a long time, and there are institutional mechanisms, and then we are able to discuss and talk about this today, thanks to the anti-ragging cell, anti-ragging, anti-bullying cell that are there in institutes, in our institutes, which is mandatory. But I think we also need to look at the spirit of institutional structures that are asked to put in place. The spirit is to change the relationship that we typically have inherited with others. So the seniors expect them to be respected by the juniors, irrespective of whether they call for that respect or not. It's almost like a traditional obedience that we continue, which immediately creates a space of inequality. It's almost like the recipe for creating a context of bullying, where bullying in a way flourishes, where somebody is high up and somebody is low for whatever reasons. And in some way, institutional spaces, if it could do things which will reduce the gap, this inequality in relating to each other. And one way of reducing the gap is to create spaces where there is no precondition of relating, spaces where I am equal to anybody who is a senior, who is a teacher. And spaces like this has to be taught new. The spaces which are informal, a space which brings in creativity. And I'm very glad, as I was also going through your institute's website, and I saw some of the great spaces that are already being created and tried to continue. So I was very impressed by your big clubs and societies that you have. One is to do with mental health. Now, when we talk about mental health, we generally talk about counseling in a formal way. But having a system like like society that you have, Society for Mental Health, it's a very interesting term, a word that you use, Americi, a Greek word, and it's fabulous. And or theater society, eco club, spaces where people come together and create a different kind of relationship, where we rewrite our stories, where we listen to each other, and that listening, rewriting with stories of each other, and not the stories as victim or bully. This requires the major support of the young people. So what we're suggesting is that it's important to have spaces, centers, committees, but it's also important to create peer support, peer group, a group which are close to each other automatically, which will ensure that the respect and honoring of the stories, honoring of whatever experiences that we have is also acknowledged. We believe that young people who experience ragging, it is not they do it as a passive recipient. They resist. We all resist injustice. We all resist violence, but we resist it in our own way. And sometimes those resistance are not visible to us. Only if we have the ears and the hearts ready to do that, that's where alternate spaces make it possible for us to create a new kind of relationship in educational spaces. So that's what we wanted to say, communicate through this brief presentation. Thank you for this opportunity to all of you, and we would be happy to have some questions and comments.
Thank you, Dr. Abhishek and Dr. Diptarup, for such a wonderful session. It was really very informative. Now the floor is open for question and answers. I request Dr. Teenam Bora, Assistant Professor, DME Media School, to moderate the session.
Thank you. It was indeed quite an interesting session, Dr. Diptarup and Dr. Abhishek. Well, we have quite a few questions from our students already. One question is that mostly seeing that the person bullying someone, as you said, are smart. they know what they are doing but still do. There are many laws and many awareness programs, but still it can be very easily seen there may be psychological issues or guilty mind, but how to completely stop it or prevent it before happening? You are on.
Yeah. So I wish we had that mechanism of even stopping crimes before it happens. And I'm reminded of some Hollywood movies. I forget. It's like where we can track the mind of people and know what is going to happen. I wish our minds were so easy and easy to predict. And I thank God that we cannot predict that. Then the creativity and all those things are also goes away with that. But I think the spirit of the question is that, can we not do something early? Can we not do something beforehand? And what can we do? And from my side, that what I have already mentioned is that right from the beginning of the first day of when somebody is stepping into a space, the space should provide opportunities and possibilities that the person has not even thought of. So societies like this, what you already have, and also experiences and examples of how a relationship is being considered between peers, between teachers and students, which is not based on automatic extraction of obedience, which in a way creates again a space of bullying and ragging. This is where we start the first step. And then obviously we will see incidences like this happening. So it's also very important for us to not assume what is already there, but create a space for conversation, create a space of a different kind of listening to the bullies and bully victims. Because at the end of the day, I think we should never forget that how many people are you going to take and pluck and then throw them out of the system? We'll end up having a lot of our own students leaving or being othered. So a system which does not do othering, which does not push them away, but try to understand and also clearly mention what is expected, the new kind of relational status, and the way we expect it. So that's where institutional space and new possibilities comes in through examples, through even conducting a small program, but how doing it very respectfully and honoring the experiences of young people, where people can talk about it openly and respectfully, is where we start getting into doing right from day one.
I think that is something which should be done from day one as a part of kind of preventive measure.
Yes.
So that's because, of course, as Dr. Diptur said, that it cannot be predicted. You can't predict it. But if you take some preventive steps in the beginning itself, I think that can help a lot. Now, I think there is one important element in the question is that, and that is what I tried to focus in the presentation as well, that those who indulge in bullying. So someone said the question was like that they think that they are very smart, something like that. So it's not that they only think that they are very smart. It is also the perception of many in the class that they are very smart that way. So and that does nothing but reinforces them. So ये क्या हो रहा है? ये हमारे side से हो रहा है क्या?
Wait an hour.
Wait, okay, yeah, sorry, some technical glitch. So I think it's important on occasions to point that out. It's important for those who are, say, victims of, and these actions are very subtle actions, commenting upon someone, bullying. I don't think physical violence is that frequent, at least
Interpersonal aggression is something that you also see.
Yes, that is what is more frequently seen. So pointing it out, letting the other person know, and saying that assertively. By assertively, it does not involve any sort of aggression. But then if someone is not feeling right about something, I think it's very well, it's okay to say that. And it's also important for others who think, because everyone knows that this is not right, but the person who indulges into it, he believes that he is smart, and he is smart because of that. So he is gaining a kind of acceptance. That acceptance may not be a very positive one, but he's gaining a kind of acceptance and that attention which I was talking about earlier.
And
So,
then here also I wanted to add, we are talking about institutional space, institute, where it's also important for us to decide whether the institute honors such smartness in its day-to-day regular activities and transactions, or does it honor genuine kindness and relating to each other. A smart who is not considered smart will not continue to be smart. So that's where the space and the basic ground rules of the institute starts rewriting the stories.
And it can very well be facilitated, like Dr. Diprup used the word kindness. Say gaining attention, there can be other acceptable ways of gaining attention uh, be used by that very person, and this can very well be facilitated. So I think that that is where the answer lies.
So we have given a essay type answer to objective question, I guess.
Because there is no objective answer to it.
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
So there are a few similar questions, and this is regarding bullying in terms of physical appearances. So which leads to a lot of insecurity, and this
Yes.
happens amongst the youth as well as in the family. So there's this question, we often see that in our families as well. We find especially our relatives commenting over our appearance or educational stuff and our capabilities. People are body shamed by their relatives, and they are conditioned by their own families that they shall not say anything to them out of respect. So is this also kind of bullying? And how do youngsters deal with this?
So I think this is very well a kind of bullying. And as I told you,
Bullying starts early at home.
Yeah, bullying starts early at home, and when you're sharing this thing, being a clinician, I can tell you that not the very right thing, but then several interactions with some of the individuals with whom I work, it's coming to my mind. So it's very often it starts back at home, and it also highlights that there is a lot of there is a very pervasive sense of lack of awareness, if I say so, because very recently, I don't know what that ad was. It was about appearance, some cosmetic, something like that. But then they have right now taken it off. It was about the color of the skin,
Fair and lovely.
fair and lovely, no? Yes. So in a way, it's nothing, but it also implies that kind of unawareness which exists. People don't know what kind of consequences it can lead to. So one way to handle it, what I feel, is talking about these issues, talking about what possibly body shaming and things like that can lead someone to. So that is why it's important to take the perspective of others. So I mean, it's rather to, in terms of awareness, I would say, of course, if someone who is being bullied, he or she needs to talk about it. He or she needs to say that this is not right with me, and it's required that that person puts it forward. But then it's also about awareness. So people should know, and gradually people are coming to know. That is why this ad has been modified.
So it's almost like we should become bully proof right from our younger days, and start wearing bully proof jackets, and our parents should actually start the process early on. because and we actually have our bully-proof jackets in our own ways. And focusing on that is what is important. And then in
It's
some way,
very important for us to, value ourselves, not to see us uh, every time with the lens of others. So I think that
is this a bulletproof jacket which will stop you from getting the bullets of those kind of
it's a
discriminative
kind,
comments?
yeah.
Yeah, in a lighter note is what I'm trying to say. But yes, in a way, you are right that we go back to the history, we go back to the starting. We just can't say that, let's do something in the educational space where somebody has been experiencing bullying during growing up period, and which is quite normalized. What you were saying about awareness, lack of awareness, I will complicate it a little more. I'm saying that it's not just lack of awareness, but also a sense of acceptance, because it is what it is normal, it is what it is to be done, given, and no questions asked. So our educational space can at least start creating a safe space for people to ask questions. Is it okay? Even what I have received when I was growing up, maybe that will create a space for bully-proof jacket again in educational space.
Okay, so we have one last question. Sometimes it happens that bystanders who goes to stop bullying sometimes get bullied themselves. What can one do in such a situation?
Can you repeat the question once?
Bystanders who goes to stop bullying sometimes get bullied themselves. So when we go to protect someone else from getting bullied, we end up getting bullied ourselves. That's what they're asking. That, what to do in such situations. And also there are questions regarding, I'm just clubbing them all together here now. So there are many who face bullying on a daily basis and they end up going into depression, but when they don't have the courage to speak out, or they don't, they can't trust anyone enough to confide in, how do they deal with it on their own? Two questions. This.
I think if I take the second question first, uh, developing good friendship, developing at least we need to trust some people. It happens that because of sometimes it is perpetual. So some people start believing that you cannot trust anyone, and on occasions it happens also that someone shares something with someone and then everyone comes to know about it. So but that does not mean that no one would listen. So it's important that we make friends. It's important that we because that courage has ultimately it has to come. You need to talk about it, otherwise the experience will continue. So one can start with the family, because many a times it happens that family is absolutely not knowing what is happening with the child. I mean, the child word is coming to my mind because of my clinical experience, but it happens. So you will find someone who will listen to you, and at least if that happens, the college can be can play a very vital role. So if you have a cell like that, when someone who feels, because this is nothing but a deep sense of insecurity, whom to trust. So and very in some vulnerable cases, it's not only the current incidents, the current things which are happening. Maybe that person had some bad experiences, some adverse childhood experiences as well. So all the things coming together has led him or her to perceive the world in a way which is absolutely lack of trust. But it's not like that. So developing good relationships, making friends, talking to teachers, talking to anyone whom they can trust will help. So it's important that that courage. And that can also happen when, out of negative experiences, I'm highlighting that repeatedly, that we start devaluing ourselves. So we don't we don't value ourselves. So it's important to be self compassionate, and talk to people, because that will be the first step, I can tell you, rather than keeping to oneself. And going like that, continuing that very way, again, that is going to take a toll on the mental health. So it's important to develop that courage, and I can tell you that there are always people who are ready to listen. Now, coming to the first question, see, do not have any kind of very objective answer to it. It's important to be safe. It's important to be, of course, as a bystander, also to exercise control. But then, always kind of watching things happening in front of you, it just reinforces. So at least, what should I say? People can, there can be some kind of a mechanism where
I can just add that why do bystanders intervene? Bystanders, they will no longer be called as bystanders then if they intervene. And I don't think that bystanders, they intervene because they are asked to intervene. Or it is written on the poster that if you're seeing bullying, please jump into it and stop it. And nobody decides to do that, looking at the poster, reading at the poster. Nobody is penalized, at least as of now, of not intervening a bullying that is episode that is going on. So then why is somebody is involving in a bullying or diffusing a bullying situation? I think it comes from the values that one holds. And somebody who is stopping or trying to stop bullying will also try to stop somebody cutting the queue in a reservation counter, and would also raise question to the parents if the parents does discrimination based on gender. Or a teacher gives marks to a favorite student, whatever it is. So it's to do with some deep-rooted values, values which makes protesting against injustice an important thing of living. So if even if that person holds that value, and if the person comes to us, even if we say, from tomorrow onwards, do not jump into anybody's affairs or don't meddle into it, that person will still continue to do that because that's a part of the values. And we wish that there are more and more young people who hold on to such values. But also they should remember to be smarter, because we are talking about bullies as smart because they know, and they're really smart because they could know the relational dynamics to manipulate it to their advantage. So can the intervening people, can the peers, can the friends be smarter? Can the bullies be smarter? And Abhishek rightly pointed out that many a times to diffuse a scenario, we also need to have strategies. Humor is one such strategy. Humor immediately brings a lot of smile and laughter and fun in that, provided we do it in a safe way. Otherwise, we'll get doubly bashed up. Or sometimes leaving the scenario, leaving the situation with a comment, and then leaving it, and then possibly taking it up later on in a different context. So being smarter than the bully, and go by the values of protesting something that is injustice. And going back to the other part of the question, which you said about the trust issue, I think we should also not individualize the issue of trust too much. Because at the end of the day, it's a difficult time that we're going through, where trusting others is not easy, whether it's trusting friends, trusting newspaper, trusting the society, the people in power. it's difficult time for us. So let's also be mindful about that, and then try to create a relational space. Again, coming back to institute and what you have been already doing, creating small spaces which can create a new kind of soil where trust can grow. And I think that's the only hope that we can try.
But there are always, and most of the people around are good only. So this trust can always be built up, and that can happen only when we talk. So even out of all the insecurities which we have, I think if we start talking, gradually this trust issue will not remain. So you will always have people whom you can trust, and those who can, if not many, at least a few. And that's not a very difficult thing. So but that can happen only when we talk, and gradually we will find, friends among say the many in the peer group, that those who can be trusted.
Okay. Actually, there are several more questions, but we are running out of time. So what I'll do is I can.
हाँ, वो एक वेबिनार चल रही है, नहीं बताएं, वैसे मैंने ऑफ कर दिया.
Okay, so I'll take down these questions and I'll connect to you separately on this, and then I'll maybe connect back with the students. Anyway, thanks a lot for enlightening our students about and sensitizing them about this very important topic. I think we can move on. Divyashree, please.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now I invite Honorable Justice Bhavar Singh Ji, Director General, Delhi Metropolitan Education, to say a few words.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, my compliments to the two young men, Dr. Chaudhary and Dr. Abhishek, for their very erudite discourse. They have complimented each other. That was one very good thing. And they have talked about the humor, laughter to tackle with this menace of bullying. And I must also lend support to their views by saying that a smile can win the day. So we can indeed deal with it by taking recourse to reconciliatory methods. But every time they don't pay, and every time they do not materialize. Being a judge, I can talk about the laws to tackle with the bullying. See, 50 years back when I was a magistrate, then I used to deal with these small matters. They are called the petty offenses. If someone teases other, then section 294 of the Indian Penal Code comes into picture. And a person who teases a student, senior, teases a junior girl, then he can be tackled with under that provision of law. Though it's no doubt a petty offense, and at times the situation can be tackled with by humor, as Dr. Chaudhary and Dr. Abhishek, both of them have said. But some students, when they acquire their seniority, they become thick-skinned. They do not come around by saying that you must not do this, or by making them to understand the complications and the implications thereof. Then the law plays its own role. So the first thing they can be tackled with is that an FIR can be lodged. And I'm saying this because the students who believe in bullying others, particularly the juniors, and more particularly the girls, then they must understand that if someone is convicted, even a fine is imposed, then it will bring an stigma to them for their whole life. A convict cannot get a government job, and he will always called to be a convict. Earlier, when the reformatory theories were not in the vogue much, these days, even if a murder is committed by a teenager that is below 18 years of age, then he would not be sent to prison. He will not be sent to jail, but he will be sent to the reformatory home. As in the Abhya murder case, many accused persons were sent, but the young man who played very important role in commission of the offense was set free after serving a reformatory home for 3 years. Then there were no, I must say, till 40, 50 years back, there were there were reformatory laws. So all such teenagers were sent to jail, and they would serve, even if for 3 years or 5 years, they would serve the jail term with sometimes labor. Though it was no doubt, as the humanists say, and we must subscribe to their views, that teenagers are not the boys and girls of very mature understanding. They sometimes commit these petty offenses just for the sake of fun and frolics. But nowadays, the reformatory theories have intervened, and howsoever grave offense may be committed by a teenager, he would, even if convicted, be sent to the reformatory home. Anyway, the conviction is a conviction. Let me apprise the young students who, despite testing all what has been said by our two honorable guests, and despite that what are the directions of the Supreme Court in Vishaka case, that they should not do this, they should not do that, and the institutions have to follow many norms by putting such directions and instructions on notice boards, etc., so that every student may apprise himself or herself that what would be the consequence of bullying tactics. Anyway, there are more laws to tackle with it. If some physical force is used by the bullying persons, then it can be tackled under Section 323 of the Indian Penal Code. And if some harm is caused, then they can be sent, the offenders can be sent to jail term for 1 year, even 2 years. If the injury is serious, say caused by a knife, then it may be more severe, that is 3 years. If some dangerous weapon is used, then rigorous imprisonment can also be awarded. Sometimes, and let me remember 50 years back, my college days. The best way of ragging in those days was that a junior who came across we requested, hello friend, what is your hobby? He would say that singing is my hobby. Okay, sing a song. Then he would recite a song, say, Khoya Khoya Chand, etc. And after that, the seniors felt satisfied. They would give him chocolate or some other things to eat. They respected him. They respected why? Because their instinct of ego, of being senior, was satisfied. They have obeyed them. They have complied with their dictates. That was to be rewarded. But now after 50 years, and in those days also the physical violence used to take place, stabbing and shooting even were heard of. But these days, people are of much mature mind, like students, they understand everything. So I would like to advise them not to take recourse to bullying, much less to the physical bullying. Physical bullying is very risky. It can spoil their career. They can be arrested, they can be prosecuted before the courts of law, and the provisions mentioned in different provisions of law, section 341 is one that they can be tackled with. Sometimes it used to take place that the seniors would call a junior and would lock him in the room of a hostel. So it amounted to be a wrongful confinement. And wrongful confinement is also a serious offense. The person this kind can be sent to imprisonment. So these are some of the laws. And I remember that if some incident of suicide would take place by a junior student because he has been mentally tortured by the seniors, then they were called up under abatement of suicide. They were punished under abatement of suicide, that is 306. And 306 is punishable up to 10 years in jail, besides fine. Likewise, some of the students criminally intimidate the juniors. So they can be tackled with under section 503 of the Indian Penal Code and can be sent to jail. So my advice, therefore, to all these offenders, the kind of offenders who still, despite the Supreme Court's instructions and many decisions around us by the High Courts, by the Supreme Court, that they must make some fun by bullying the juniors, then they must realize, they must understand, to learn that if they cross the limit, then certainly, though ragging is totally prohibited, even the petty kind of ragging can be punishable. But certainly, they must not do it by crossing the limits and tease the juniors, etc. So friends, this is all for today. As a judge, I can teach the kind of bullies that they must not take recourse to the bullying tactics. Otherwise, they may land up in problems. They may land up in criminal cases. They may also be prosecuted for defamation if they do some defamatory act. And at times when they cause much harm, they can also be sued for fraud, that is they have to pay some damages to the person whose reputation, whose feelings have been hurt by the bullying tactics of senior offenders. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity, and I was really enlightened by the two young men from a long distance. Indeed, the technology during the lockdown and the COVID period have brought us closer to each other. Okay, God bless you both, and God bless you all.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Dr. Amrish Saxena, Professor and Dean DME Media School, to say a few words.
Well, it appears that luck is not on the side of Dr. Amrish Saxena today.
So, are you there?
Yeah, let Sushmita do a proxy.
Okay, sir. Now I request Dr. Susmita Bala, Head DME Media School, to give the concluding remarks.
Thank you, Deveshri. Thanks, Dr. Diprup Chaudhary and Dr. Abhishek. So enlightening our students so nicely and cover each and everything. Basically, every human being, every citizen of this country is entitled to this. There should be no discrimination or any basis, be it gender or age or seniority. So we cannot accept the evil practices of ragging of juniors by seniors. Actually, no justification for this. Ragging is an inhuman act, we all know. We cannot accept this. In DME, we follow a policy of zero tolerance to ragging already. That is why DME is ragging free campus. We must keep up this rich tradition. As you told, that all societies, so we have societies for welfare of students. So thank you, Dr. Diprup and Abhishek, to explaining widely all the subject and nicely explain to our students. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, as sir is here, I invite Dr. Amrish Saxena, Professor and Dean DME Media School, to say a few words.
Thank you, Devji. This internet is playing hide and seek since morning here in DME. Okay, so what I was saying that even in my university days, this ragging and bullying was a very serious problem. And if I look at comparatively, now the things are much, much better. And it was not confined earlier only to colleges. Even within the campus of colleges, the problem is there, has been there, is there. But then it was more serious in hostels particularly. And there I have seen myself the ugly face of the ragging, and I can understand that this is a problem which has to be tackled in multiple ways. One, definitely, the law has to be there. The fear of the law has to be there among the people, that they don't commit any such kind of act which is inhuman, or which is illegal, or which is criminal. So, but that's just one part of the story. The other thing is that we need to have the sensitization among the student, the kind of this session that we are having, wherein the seniors and the juniors both are sensitized that every human being has a dignity and nobody has a right to take away somebody's dignity. So this sensitization is important. And then beyond that, the root cause of all such kind of things, bullying, whether in colleges or outside the colleges, the root cause is that we always been having a feudal society in our country. So obviously, this bullying is a symbol of that feudal mindset. Whatever crimes are happening in our society, the crimes against women, that again is a reflection of our feudal mindset, wherein we feel that if we have money and if we have power, then we have a right to take away others' freedom. So that mindset has to be changed, and it's a very slow process. But then we have to keep on doing all such kind of practices wherein that gap is bridged, and then the parents have to do a lot of things in this area. The upbringing of the boys and the girls have to be there, wherein they understand that these are the things which are not to be practiced, not even inside home, not outside the homes. So all those things have to be there. And on the college campus, this is again important, as we try to do in DME, and particularly in DME Media School. We have been having many such practices wherein that gap is bridged. Like last year we started this web, that is welcome young buddies. There the welcome of the young persons, the freshers, that is done by the senior batch. So instead of bullying or ragging, the senior batch is welcoming the youngsters wholeheartedly. So that way, that gap is bridged, that interaction is established between the seniors and the juniors. I even conceived a program last year, face to face, which was an interactive program, and wherein as a dean I was interacting with the student, three students, one drawn from first year, one drawn from second year, one drawn from third year. Now that was an exercise to minimize the any differences or any gaps between the juniors and the seniors. Everybody was sitting at one level, at one platform, and there was an exchange happening not only between me and the students, but between one student and another student. The student of the first year will be interacting to the student of the second year will be interacting with the third year. So by enhancing this kind of communication, this kind of interaction, I think this problem can be reduced to a significant extent. So we have to take recourse to multiple measures, multiple ways to address this problem. And then obviously we can always hope then tomorrow there will be a better society, better campuses, wherein we will not be confronting any such problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now it's time to give the thanks note. Hence, I invite Ms. Krishna Pandey, Assistant Professor, DME Media School, to give the thanks note.
Thank you so much, Divyashri, and a very good morning to everyone. I am Ms. Krishna Pandey, convener of the Committee on Anti-Ragging and Anti-Bullying, and I offer my heartfelt thanks to our guests, Dr. Dipta Rup Chaudhary and Dr. P. Abhishek, who took out precious time from their busy schedule to address our students. Thank you, sir, for giving us such an insightful session. A lot of notions on bullying has been clear today, especially that even those who bully need to be treated along with those who are being bullied. Also, institutional space plays an important role in reducing the chances of bullying. I also wish to thank Anmol sir and faculty members, Sumantra sir and Ritvik sir, for their support. However, no amount of thanks, or for that matter, gratitude, can be said without mentioning Dr. Ambrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School, and Dr. Sushmita Bala, Head DME Media School, who have been always a guiding force behind the events and activities of DME Media School. I also take this opportunity to thank Dr. Abhikant Swami, Director DME, Honorable Justice Bhavat Singh Ji, Director General, Delhi Metropolitan Education, and our Vice Chairman Aman Sani for giving the permission to organize the session, and also for their constant encouragement and support. Here, I also would like to give special thanks to my colleague, Dr. Teenam Bora, Assistant Professor, DME Media School, for taking the initiative to organize the session. Last but not the least, I thank the audience for being with such a for being with us throughout the session. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day ahead.